And welcome back to yet another part of our HVAC schematic discussion. Again, at this point, we're just using line voltage circuits because we want to get used to drawing schematics and working with schematics that do not include a transformer and do not have an extra degree of difficulty. So once again, we're looking at a refrigeration diagram. Now, this is a pictorial diagram because our next schematic goes from being able to complete a pictorial, which is the way wiring diagrams are laid out, okay, on a lot of equipment, and it's basically equipment component location and wiring of components. And then we're going to do step 2 of this, which takes the pictorial and you're going to redraw it as a ladder schematic so you can see sequence of operation. Now, in order to start us off here, I'm going to go ahead and start drawing in, and I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to use red, and I know that's an obnoxious color sometimes, but I think I'm going to go ahead and use red to start drawing this stuff in. So what we're going to do is I'm going to first start off with my line 1. Now, because this is alternating current, it really doesn't matter which side is my power feed, okay? So I'm going to go for neatness here. And I'm going to draw my line 1 in, and the reason I want to get it over here okay, is so I can connect all my commons in, okay? I might as well go ahead and just get that out of the way because the commons in my motor. Now the compressor common, we have an overload. Okay, now if you look here on each of these devices, on each of these motors, with the exception of the evaporator fan, which is a shaded pole, we are giving you resistance readings. Okay, that's because nothing's labeled other than the common on the condenser fan. When you look at resistances on motors, your highest resistance winding is between start and common. Your lowest is your run. Now, this one up here has 9, 6, and 15 between these 2 points. Common is the one opposite your highest if you have 3 readings, and common is not labeled. So if you take a look here, 6 to that pin, 6 is between these 2 pins, 9 is between these 2 pins, 15 is between these. So you take your highest reading, the one across from it is common. The next highest will be your start, and then the smallest resistance is your run. So let's go ahead and do the easiest one first. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to connect in my evaporator fan motor. Okay, get that in. Now we know my condenser fan is also going to get power on the L terminal. Might as well get that out of the way. My M goes to my run winding. Okay. My S goes to my start winding. And if you take a look at what type of motor that is, okay, this is just a split phase motor. There's no capacitors there. Okay, now on this one, it's a little bit different, okay, because I have a 1, 2, and 5, which tells me that this is a potential relay. Okay, 5 we know goes over to my goes to the common winding or the common terminal, but it goes between, doesn't go after the overload, goes before the overload. Okay, so let's just neaten that up a little. 2, okay, is going to go to my start winding. Okay, so I'm going to take 2 to my start winding, or as in this case as close as I can get. My start cap is going to go into 1, and I'm going to go ahead and before I lose track of it, I'm going to bring power up to my capacitors. Again, thermostat's controlling everything. Okay. Now the one winding that I haven't done anything with yet is my run winding. Okay, I need to be able to take my run cap and bring it into my run winding. This is a CSCR motor. Okay, so there really isn't a way to do this without crossing lines over here. This is just the nature of the beast. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cross lines here. Okay, and then my last thing I need to do is I need to bring power in to my thermostat. Okay, so what we have here is I have a CSCR motor. Okay, I have split phase motor, and I have an EFM motor. Everything cycles on the thermostat. Because we have an L1 and L2, this is a 240 volt circuit. So now we have a potential relay on the compressor. I have a split phase with a current coil relay on my condenser fan, and I have an evaporator fan that's a shaded pole motor. This is a typical refrigeration diagram. I could actually have my evaporator fan run all the time, but in this case we had it run off the thermostat. So now the next piece of this puzzle is we have to say, okay, how are we going to draw this as a ladder schematic? So let's go over to our blank piece of paper. Okay, and let's start off with, we might as well put in the rungs for our diagram. Okay, I have L1. Okay, I have to decrease the size of that a little bit. Have to have a breaker. Okay, I might as well duplicate that right on the other side. Okay, we're going to just say, we're going to label this real quick. I'm going to label L1. I'm going to label my breaker. I'm going to label L2. And I'm going to label my breaker. Okay, now that takes care of my ladder. So let's go back and look at my diagram. So my thermostat is controlling everything. Okay, we might as well start and get that thermostat in there. So I have a pre-drawn cooling thermostat that I'm going to use, okay, because I'm going to use my symbol sheet that I've been making as I've been doing all these diagrams, and I'm going to toss my pre-drawn symbol sheet thermostat in here. Okay, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so I don't run out of room, and I'm probably going to go ahead and change the color of that to red so that it matches everything else. Okay, now coming out of my thermostat, let's start off with the simplest first. Doesn't have to be the same order here. This is a pictorial. Okay, we're going to do my evaporator fan first. Okay, so what I need is I need a shaded pole motor. Okay, and I happen to have one right there. I'm going to copy my shaded pole motor. Going to bring it over here. Okay, I'm going to I'm going to change some colors here. Going to take that to red. Going to take that to red. maybe. Just so everything matches. Okay. Okay. So my shaded pole motor, basically our next step is I just got to connect this in. Might as well get it done while I'm sitting here looking at it. Okay. There's my shaded pole motor. We're going to label that EFM. Okay, and I'm going to label my T-stat. Okay. So we have that part of it done. Down here. That's all done. Next, let's take our condenser fan motor. It's a split phase motor. Might as well take that one next. So let's go find our split phase motor. Okay. I'm actually gonna grab that one right there. And we're gonna copy, oops, didn't want to do that. I'm going to copy that one, and I'm going to come over here. Now, on this split phase motor, I have to remove that capacitor because we didn't want that on this one, and then just connect that line in. I now have a split phase motor. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and wire this one in, but I'm not going to come from line 1 because I want the thermostat to be controlling this. Okay, and we're going to label this CFM. Okay, so let's go and look at our diagrams. So now I have my condenser fan. Now all I have left is a CSCR for a compressor, and I have to have my motor overload. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to do my CSCR first. Okay, so I need a CSCR motor, and I've already drawn one of those. Let me get rid of my... Okay, so I'm going to... I'm going to copy my CSCR motor. I'm going to pull it over here. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and connect it in. Now, on this one, I had one additional symbol, if we remember. I have that motor overload over there. The symbol for motor overload is no different that's being shown here than what will be shown on a ladder schematic. But I don't have one of those yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw real quick. I'm going to have to draw, well, part of this I'm going to have to freehand, okay? So I'm going to come over here to stay with my colors that I've been using. Okay. And I need to draw that arc. And let's just decrease that in size a little bit. Now, the motor overload not only has the arc, but it has two lines that connect to it. Okay, so we'll come out here. And we'll come out here. Now I'm going to change the two colors of these just so that they match everything else we've been doing. Okay, and then I'm going to just move this to more, okay. So I now have a motor overload, and just because I can, I'm going to throw some dots there. It just shows it better. Okay, it shows that this is actually a bimetal strip that will open on a rise in temperature. Motor overloads. They basically heat up as the amperage increases. So the bimetal will snap to an open position if the amperage gets too high. It's the same principle circuit breakers and other circuit protection devices on. When it cools off again, this bimetal will close again and allowing the system to continue to operate. So let me just label this part and then we'll go back to our diagram. Okay. So now I'm going to grab this motor overload that I just drew. Okay, we'll copy this. And we'll come over here to my diagram. And we'll wire this in. Now let's do a little bit of labeling. Okay, I'm just going to label this OL. I'm going to label this compressor. Okay, and everything else is already labeled. Now, it really doesn't matter if you leave these long or short. I'm just going to shorten these a little just because it looks better. Okay, but with the bars of the schematic, it doesn't really matter if you leave it long or short. Okay, so sequence of operation, breakers on. If the temperature is above the set point of the thermostat, our thermostat will close, allowing power or current to get to the EFM, CFM, and compressor. As long as the temperature hasn't satisfied, okay, in other words, if the box temperature or the space being cooled is over the set point, the thermostat will remain closed. As the box temperature reaches the set point, it will open, shutting off EFM, CFM, and compressor. Okay, we have a 240 volt diagram here. I want to label that real quick as well. And we worked from diagram, and I'm just going to put it on here, diagram 12B in one of our courses. So that's how you take the schematic, the pictorial, okay, and these just get more interesting as time goes on with wires all over everywhere, and you take it to a ladder schematic. Do it rung by rung, component by component. These are great for component placement and wiring. These are really nice for sequence of operation. That's the difference between the ladder and the pictorial.